Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Delta Challenges workshop. We're running just a few minutes late because a couple of the speakers for this first panel are yet to arrive. I think there's some difficulty with the traffic. But we're going to get started now. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Peter Goodwin. I have the honor of serving as the lead scientist and will serve as the master of ceremonies today. I'd also like to acknowledge Lauren Hastings on the bottom left-hand corner and Maggie Chrisman, who have been staff people that have pulled this together. As part of the introductory comments, first of all, I would just like to invite the panel, and I'll say a few more remarks after the introduction from the state and federal side about this. But as you can probably tell, the concept that the planning committee for this workshop had was, if you're going to do a summary of the challenges that are facing the Delta right now, why not bring back all of the former lead scientists that know an awful lot about the system and have them actually produce this synthesis and summary document? And we're delighted to say that when we approached all the former lead scientists, everyone saw the value of this activity and agreed to come at really very short notice. So we appreciate all of the lead scientists. We know you're very busy people. And we know that many of you changed quite dramatic schedules to be here today. So rather than me giving the introduction, I thought we would just run down the line. And it's interesting that we're almost in chronological order. So perhaps Dr. Luoma, you would just like to give a brief self-introduction of your self-background expertise and perhaps the dates that you were a lead scientist. I think it is, yes.
Yeah, I was when we started the CalFed, the dreaded CalFed Day Delta program in 1999, science director to decision in 2000. I started shortly before that and helped write the definition of the chief scientist or lead scientist job, and then in the doing 3 years, tried to establish a framework, I think we call it, that was 2003. Now I work at the University of California, Davis, a half-time research ecologist position, and worked with Geological Survey for several decades.
Perhaps just to add to that, Dr. Luoma, of course, is also the editor of online journal, the San Francisco Estuary and Watershed Science. More.
I'm Johnny Moore, and I'm lead scientist number 2. I came on board after Sam in 2000. And I'm an emeritus professor now, just retired in July from the University of Montana, where I still do water and river.
So I'm the one out of order. I'm Cliff Dahm. I was the 4th lead scientist. I was here from July of 2008 through February of 2012. I was here for the transition from the CalFed Science Program to the Delta Science Program. I'm a professor of biology at the University of New Mexico. I'm an ecosystems ecologist, and I focus on streams and rivers and groundwater, surface water interactions.
I'm Mike Healy. I was the fill-in lead scientist in 2007 and 2008 when they couldn't find somebody to be lead scientist. I was on the independent science board for the science program at the time. I'm a professor emeritus from the University of British Columbia in Canada. I'm a fisheries ecologist by training, and I've been working on water issues in California since 1991.
Thank you, Dr. Healy. Now, by way of your introduction, this workshop is being convened at the direct request of the Department of Interior and Department of Natural Resources here in California. So I'd like to call on Letty Valind, who is the Senior Counsel for the Deputy Secretary of the Interior, and she's been very helpful and constructive in the planning of this workshop. Letty, welcome to Sacramento.
Thank you, Peter. And I will say that I'm also here, I guess for a moment, I'll also speak for the Commerce Department, because the request that we sent to Peter last July was from the Commerce Department, the Interior Department, and the Natural Resources Agency. And first of all, I guess I want to thank Peter and Lauren and your colleagues at the Stewardship Council for convening this. We sent a letter last July, and we requested that the Delta Stewardship Council and Peter and Lauren convene a workshop to try to basically review existing information and prepare a summary analysis of the long-term effects, all the different long-term effects of continuing the current course of actions relating to the Delta. So we were just talking about why do we need this? Why is this important? As all of you here know, co-equal goals, continued reliable water supply for the state, and restoring the Bay Delta ecosystem health are the law of this state. They also have been driving the Obama administration, and as we see, many prior administrations, federal administrations and state, driving our policy vis-a-vis the Bay Delta for the last 6 years. So the only way we can possibly achieve those goals is if policymaking and science advance hand in hand. And really the North Star for us has always been science. There's absolutely no way we can address the co-equal goals and make progress in the Bay Delta without understanding the science and following the science. So then we have the problem that, gee, there's an awful lot of the science. I know my boss, Mike Connor, Deputy Secretary of Interior, talked at I guess it's a biennial Bay Delta Science Conference within the last year. I mean, there's an awful lot of science being done. In fact, so much science that it's completely, I can't, none of us can really fathom it all, and it's very hard to distill out what are the core and most important issues that an interested member of the public, that policy makers, that everyone and anyone who cares about the Bay Delta, whether you care about the water that gets delivered through the Bay Delta, or you care about the ecosystem, or you care about the economy of the state, what is it that we need to understand? And that's really what this is about, is hoping that we can build on, sort of extract the wisdom of those of you who have been the lead scientists in the Bay Delta, who will also be hearing from other experts, the collective amount of wisdom and science that all of you understand and have developed. Can you, it's such an easy task, just distill it into a intelligible, relatively short story. What is it that we need to pay attention to, and just what are the connections of the various scientific threads? And so I guess I just thank you guys, and I really look forward to hearing everything that's said today and where it goes from there.
Thank you, Letty, for putting that into context. And now I'd like to invite Carla Namath on behalf of the Natural Resources Agency to give the perspective from the state.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Goodwin. And I want to echo everything that Letty Beelan said, and certainly express my appreciation for Lauren and her colleagues and the panelists themselves, who really appreciate your willingness to make this a priority and to assemble and help us frame issues that will affect policymakers in the state of California and how we manage the Delta system. I think what I'd like to add a little bit to Letty's comments, and that is, over the course of the last 6 years, there's been even longer, 10 years. As you know, there's been a renewed focus on the Delta and how we've been managing the Delta, and that certainly includes how we bring science better into the discussion and how we bring science more appropriately and specifically into decision-making on how we manage that system. We've had several milestones over the past decade. One was maybe it's not quite a milestone, but it certainly was a turning point, but the collapse of the pelagic organisms in the Delta in 2005, that certainly generated another look at what was working and what was not working. There have been several very helpful, I think, documents that have been produced by the scientific community. That one that comes to mind is the 2007 Envisioning Delta Futures, that really did help to crystallize what can we do as state government together with the federal government in making better decisions and preparing California for the future. What does that mean in the Delta? 2009 certainly picked up on all that good work, and California passed landmark legislation that codified the co-equal goals in the Delta. That's been our marching orders moving forward. In 2014 was yet another landmark year in California for water management, with the passage of a water bond and the Brown administration's California Water Action Plan in terms of putting state investments to important water resource and ecosystem management uses in California and working together with local governments to do the same. So in my view, it is very important and entirely appropriate when Letty Beelan and I and her colleagues at Commerce started chatting last summer about how far we've been together over the course of the last 6 years in sorting out state and federal approaches to Delta management, that it was likely time to recheck where the scientific community is on kind of a status quo approach moving forward. How does it fit for California if state and federal governments decide to continue to pursue our existing management efforts under our existing framework? And what opportunities does that provide? What challenges does that create? I think one of the most interesting challenges about working in the Delta is it's very difficult to bring people together around a shared set of facts. And we very much need the scientific community to help us and help us interact with the general public and a very well-informed public about those shared set of facts in the Delta, how they are changing, particularly as we learn more about climate change and other stressors on the system. And that is our goal with this panel and with this request, is to tap the knowledge of California and all those folks with great history in the Delta to get us to the next chapter, if you will, on what are our shared set of facts on the challenges that face us in the Delta. And we certainly appreciate, again, the time and effort that you all are taking, and certainly the expertise is unmatched, and very much look forward to the discussions today and the report. So thank you all for coming and participating.
Well, thank you, Carla, for putting things in perspective. And perhaps I would just like to add a few comments about what the purpose is today, what the lead scientists have actually been working on. So the overarching purpose of this workshop is to capture very succinctly the essence of the challenges facing the Bay Delta. We know an awful lot about this system from the science perspective, and indeed some of the most innovative estuarine research anywhere in the world has been conducted right here. But this is a very large system, it's a very complex system, and it's a very dynamic system. It's also a system that's in great peril. There are species at risk, and the loss of biodiversity here, as has recently been published, is one of the highest in the world. Water supply is at risk, and people's lives and livelihoods are at risk. And amazingly, this is not really widely understood beyond California. The myth is California water is not complicated, it's just contentious. And I'm sure many of the folks here who spend any time back east have heard this many times. And it's contentious because the stakes are so high, and all we do is, if we just work better together, we'd solve the problem. So this workshop is intended to develop the antidote to this misconception. There's many excellent papers and reports out there, perhaps most notably the National Research Council, who've done several reports in the last few years, PPIC and many others. But the problem is that this information is spread across many different locations. It's in many different journals. And often these are in very large reports where it's difficult to just pick up and immediately understand what the challenges are. So this is really the purpose of what we would like to achieve today. And for many of you sitting in the audience or listening in, you're probably thinking, gosh, there are issues there that are not covered on today's agenda. And that's true. We asked the lead scientists who they want to hear from. They're very highly expert, of course, in certain areas, but no one individual or group individuals can cover everything. So they've asked to hear from specific people today that were filling in some of the gaps that they didn't necessarily have expertise themselves. And from that perspective, we would really like to thank, on behalf of the planning committee, all of the folks who actually showed up. Just about everyone that we invited said, yes, we can see the importance of this and we're prepared to come and hold this discussion with the lead scientists. So this is where we're going today. I'd just like to make a few comments on the protocols. Being the master of ceremonies today, I'm going to hold folks to time. We've got a lot of material to be covered, and I know the lead scientists would like to go home at a reasonable time, like before Wednesday. So we're going to really hold folks to time. Of course, with everything the Stewardship Council does, and indeed natural resource agencies as well, we do everything in a very transparent way. So we do have time for public comment at the end of the day. I would ask the members of the public, people who are going to say anything, to really think about what you want to say. This is about having a clear articulation of what the challenges are, why this is such a difficult problem from the scientific perspective. And so we're going to limit the public comment probably to 2 minutes. We'll see how many people wish to comment. And to really hone those questions down for what you want the lead scientists to hear about and to take back with them. Secondly, with materials, for those of you who aren't familiar with our protocols, please do not send materials directly to anyone on the panel. They've been instructed to ignore anything that goes through that group. If you have materials that you think could be useful that follow up and expand on the discussion, please send that to us in the Delta Science Program through Maggie, and then we'll see if it's really going to fit. So to give you an idea of the challenges facing the lead scientists, we've asked them to come up with this synthesis and to put it together in about 15 to 20 pages, which of course is going to be an enormous challenge. And that's why we're hoping to really focus the material and really get to the essence of what's going on. So with that, I will stop and perhaps ask if any of the panelists have questions before we get started, or if Carla or Letty had anything else to add. Good. The first section that we have this morning is the first panel, the Delta's agricultural, land use, cultural, and recreational characteristics and their challenges. And the first speaker this morning is going to be Eric Vink,